Most Cartoon Network items were available in stores. Some were available online, promotional releases, employee-only exclusives, and today we'll be talking about all of those. So make sure you stay tuned so you don't miss anything. So let's get into it, the rarest Cartoon Network items. Starting off, there is so much stuff that it is impossible to make a defined list. Cartoon Network was the king of making stuff that you couldn't have. So because of that, there is so much stuff I'm sure I'm gonna miss in this video. So much so that this could literally be a series if you guys would want it to be. Let me know down below some rare Cartoon Network items that I miss in this video. But the best way for me to do this was to separate into 5 different categories of rarity, so we could fine tune to the rarest of the rare by the end of this. And some of the stuff at the end, oh my gosh, it makes my head hurt. I want it so bad. But starting off with our lowest tier of rarity being number 5, and that is retail. These are items that hypothetically you could have just walked into the store and bought, whether it be Toys R Us, Hot Topic, Target, Walmart, regular old retailers that everybody could have gone to and picked these up. But now, for whatever reason, due to scarcity, store exclusivity, it is hard to find. Number 4 is going to be stuff that was exclusively available via Cartoon Network's online store. But some of the craziest grails in the collecting scene for Cartoon Network were available through that online store, so I cannot wait to cover that as well. Then number 3 is all stuff that you had to be there, the right place, the right time, whether it's promotional items that were given out at certain events, like convention, or it could be prize plushies, something you had to win at like a fair or an arcade. And then number 2 is going to be stuff that was exclusively given to employees or only people in the high echelon of branding, to where they have these branding resources that were given to them through physical product. And number 1, the rarest, will be prototype, samples, animator maquettes, stuff that was never meant to see the public eye. Want to set the ground rules. Let's go ahead and get started with number 5, retail. Okay, so starting off with one of my favorites, that is regular show. So when it comes to regular show, one of the rarest figures you can actually get is this one right here, the Benson Bolt of Rage figure. That is not the rarest regular show item. Actually, unfortunately, the rarest item is actually the Funko Pops. I do have those in my collection. The rarest one being the Benson that goes for over $900. And when we're talking about rarity, it's gonna be a kind of a tough thing. I'm sure there's way more of that Benson Funko Pop than there is of this particular, you know, Jazzwares figure, because Funko is so much more mass produced. But I will be using value to a degree based off of supply and demand. If something's expensive, it's due to the fact that it's usually pretty limited. And if we went off just rarity alone, might be some items that really aren't all that interesting. Like there could be like a regular show paperclip that they only made one of, but you know, it goes for like $10 and not anybody's really looking for it, you know? So items that are sought after. So this is one that I would love to get. It's beautiful. It's got the bolts of freaking fire coming out. Benson's angry face from the episode where Mordecai and Rigby just pushed him too far. This would have been available at Toys R Us, and I don't see the sticker on it being Toys R Us exclusive, so I think that it would have been available at other stores possibly too, but most of the ones I see always come from Toys R Us, and due to the figures having a really poor quality, them breaking very easily, most of the characters have very skinny, snapping arms, and even the team that made the show wasn't a fan of the figures. They were very short-lived on shelves, leading them to be as rare as they are. Next up is Codename Kids Next Door. This also, if I would have just picked like that as a whole, could have dominated retail. K&D stuff was available Target, Walmart, Toys R Us, all those type of places, but for whatever reason they just didn't really do that well on store shelves, and that's just something you kind of see. I don't think they marketed this stuff very well, because as a kid I had no clue there was K&D toys. I would have loved to have some K&D toys. A lot of the SpongeBob stuff you see around me, I was able to see that in commercials, Nickelodeon magazine, so many different ways they would slide in little promo cards to let you know it even exists. But because it wasn't very popular, they didn't stay on store shelves long, so it led to a lot of the K&D stuff being fairly rare. Some of the shots you can see on screen right now are actually items that I sold from a pickup that I recently did, but out of all of these items, I still believe that the rarest one is the Colossus Glider, which we are fortunate enough to have in the collection. That one could sell, in my opinion, anywhere between $1,000 to $2,000. There's really no data because nobody has sold one sealed in a very long time, so I would say that's the rarest K&D figure. Next up, we have Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. There is a ton of merch out there for Powerpuff Girls, Ben 10, and you'll see I'm noticing I'm doing some shows that are kind of lesser, you know, common stuff you see, because that's really the rarer stuff. For Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, we have this awesome cheese head here. This is a pillow, and most of the Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends stuff was available via Hot Topic. There was a couple toys that you could have found in stores, but a majority of like the plush and clothing items, blankets, stuff like that was all available at Hot Topic. It kind of hit a niche similar to the Invader Zim, you know, where Invader Zim kind of dominated Hot Topic back in the day, and even today. They tried to kind of aim for that same type of idea with Foster's Home, so that's where we got a lot of that stuff. For example, we also have this Mac plushie here with him with his backpack that sells for about $200, and possibly the rarest of all is the Paddle Ball Blue here, the Troublemaking Blue. That one, there is 0 available currently online for it. It took me like 5 years to actually find this figure, but an incredible piece, and that one was available at Walmart's, Target's, your regular stores. And don't think I'm just picking stuff that like I have right now, guys. I have a lot of the fairly available stuff. We're still in category 5. The stuff that like is really crazy is coming up here. So this is stuff that, you know, is barely gettable. Next up, we have the Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends Wilt plush. There's only one available for $400. It is impossible to find this Wilt plush. Him, Coco, some of the lesser popular characters had the least amount of merch. For example, Blue has quite a lot of stuff out there because he was Blue and everybody loved Blue. He's the main character. Wilt, he has like 2 things, you know? Next up, we can't talk about merchandise without bringing up Ben 10, and that is this figure right here that I would freaking die for. It is the Ben 10 figure set from Toys R Us. It was limited edition, and it came with all 10 of the original Ben 10 aliens, and again, it was exclusive to Toys R Us. So even in the 2000s, believe it or not, Toys R Us was not doing as well as we thought it was. Growing up, we thought Toys R Us was like this big thing, and it was, but they were still far past their heyday of the 70s, 80s, and even early 90s. By the 2000s, things were already starting to wane for the company. So when they did get these exclusives and stuff like that, they were still fairly limited comparatively to any other major retailer that would have gotten them. Next up, we have the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. You have a couple plushies of Blue, Grim, and also Mandy. Those were also available Hot Topic, as well as like shirts, blankets, a couple items that did exist for the show were available Hot Topic. They same thing, kind of aiming for that edgy late teenager market. One of the bigger figures for Dexter's Laboratory is this, the Dexter's Walking Robot. That one was available in stores, but it was very limited how many they made in stores. It was something they also sold through the Cartoon Network Orbit website, which is their original website before the CartoonNetwork.com. They had it available there in a bigger quantity, and seemingly very little actually went to stores, but was available. And that's just some of the items, guys. Again, there is so many awesome, extremely rare Cartoon Network retail items. I know I missed a lot, so let me know down below which ones I missed, which ones I need to put in our next episode if you guys want to see it again. But, so now we're going on to number 4, which was stuff that was available through the Cartoon Network online store, and this is where we freaking really get crazy, and we see some glorious, unbelievable things. So many things I want. If only there was infinite money. Let's check them out. That's why I'm doing this on my computer. I wish I could show you each item physically. Some of them I could, but as we go higher up the list, it gets a little harder and harder. Number 4, the Cartoon Network website. One of the most iconic items that came from the Cartoon Network online store is these, the Cartoon Network block logo t-shirts. You may have seen these. They're pretty popular right now, especially in the vintage clothing community. They are all these different Cartoon Network shows that have these simple, like bookmark sized blocks that actually have images from the shows. Some of those shirts now sell from anywhere between $500 at the cheapest. I'm talking ripped holes in them, faded, sun bleached, $500, all the way up to $2,500 in some cases. Insane. And I'm not like a big vintage clothing guy, but it's crazy how much there is, like how expensive they are. But what I'm a fan of is stuff like this, the very unique stuff. And this is something they could only do via the Cartoon Network online store, which again, I feel like was very, very poorly advertised. I didn't even know there was a Cartoon Network online store growing up.
Shop on CartoonNetwork.com into an online universe of collectibles, toys, DVDs, and more.
I didn't see any ads for it on TV. I never remember seeing them in any of the Cartoon Network books. Like, how could I have ever known about it? I don't know. But because it was such a limited circumstance that you had to go online, order it, I feel like they were able to flex a little bit and do some stuff that maybe they didn't have to worry about how much it sold because it was like a per order basis. So for example, here we have the Blue Regard Q Kazoo. How freaking awesome is that? It sold for $80, but I think realistically, you would be hard-pressed to ever find that again. It sold like this. I didn't even know it existed, so I can't even say I was looking for it. But now that I know it exists, I will be looking for this forever because I love collecting Blue, anything Foster's Home related, and I never even knew that existed, so sick to see it. We also have stuff like this, the Cartoon Medley, and it's like a Cartoon Network cassette tape, and you can see it's got like all the little cubby holes there of like a school lunch tray, and this was actually 38 different Cartoon Network theme songs all put on cassette. Next up, we have these awesome desk clocks. You have this Dexter one here that from 1996 with a swivel on it, and then we also have this Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy spring clock. Like, how awesome is that clock? Next up, we have the Johnny Bravo mirror. Come on, it's a mirror you can put on your wall. It has a little hole for a comb, and it's got Johnny combing his hair on there. Like, what's a better Johnny Bravo item than a freaking mirror? Next up, we have the My Gym Partner's a Monkey locker. You have a locker from the animal school in which Adam went to because Lion was his last name. You have the locker. So sick. You also have these Cartoon Network party lights. These were available on the shop. And much of this stuff, if you do your research and try to like pick them up, a lot of them will be labeled as employee only or staff exclusive, but a lot of it was available on the online store. A lot of those two things get very confused with each other, and I'm sure I might even make those confusions here and there. But there was a Cartoon Network employee store in the Cartoon Network studios back in the day, and there was the online store, which also had access to a lot of that stuff. Not everything, but a lot of it. Like, for example, these box sets. I have them all in my collection. You guys have seen them. These were available on the Cartoon Network online store. It was just in very limited quantities, and a majority of them were actually picked up from employees via the physical store or gifted to employees on the shows they worked on independently. So there wasn't a huge, like, it wasn't widely available on the online store, but in some cases they were technically available, so I will include those as well. But the rarest item I would say from this, before we move on to category number 3, which just gets even more insane, is these two sets of plushies, and that is the Camp Lazlo bobblehead plush. It came with Clam, Raj, and Lazlo. This is a dream grail for me. I love Camp Lazlo. My two favorite shows to collect for, or 3 I guess, is Regular Show, Foster's Home, and Camp Lazlo. As a kid, I wished I could have gone to Camp Kidney. I just loved the environment so much. The characters are so fun. The summertime, you know, away from school camp vibes were everything to me. So I one day hope to have these, but this is the set of the bobblehead plush, and these were available via the Cartoon Network online store. Next up is the Ed, Edd, and Eddy version of those bobbleheads. So the same thing, both of those shows, these are the only plushies that exist for both of those respective shows. And being that they were bobblehead plush, they all have these really, really cool heavy weighted bases that where you could set them down and they really just sat perfectly, and their heads would bobble based off of normal bobblehead functions, you know? But the fact that they sat so well and were made to sit just makes them one of the best plushies too, on top of the fact they're the only ones that exist. And the packaging is beautiful too, and that was available via the Cartoon Network store, and both of those I would say are some of the greatest grails of the Cartoon Network online store that I could cover in this video again. Let's move on to number 3, which I'm sorry if I'm being over the top right now, but just seeing this stuff and knowing it exists is just driving me crazy. Like the FOMO. I need to get these things slowly but surely. It makes me want to go out and hunt right now. But anyway, number 3, these are promotional items, prize items, or sweepstakes items. Let's get into it. So next up, number 3, let's get into it. These are all those promo, hard to get, you had to be there type of items. Let's start off with prize plushies. So these are things that you had to have been at a fair or an arcade possibly to win. There's a variety of reasons why these plushies are so rare. The main reason is like the example of when you go to Chuck E. Cheese and you pay $100 to win a prize that would probably cost you $20. Most of the prizes, the companies and the fairs made so much money off people trying to get those prizes that if people didn't win them, often they were just disposed of. Number 2 being that they weren't really always the best condition, usually being made by toys like Namco and also Toy Factory, that make the plushies to give the businesses the highest profit margin possible. So they make them cheap enough to where they can sell them for as low as possible, but look good on a shelf, so that way kids try to go for them. And being that they have not the best quality, they rip, they tear, they get broken, and then parents throw them out. And number 3 being, not everybody that won them actually cared about them or even knew what they were. Some people were just playing basketball at the fair and happened to win a flapjack plush. And to us, that's like, oh, holy crap, what the hell? Ring the emergency bell, the man's got a flapjack plush. But to the person who won it, it might have just been like, oh, okay, a prize. And then they kept it for a little while, but not really caring about the property, would throw it out. And an iconic image that has been going around for years now is this one right here. It is titled Lost Cartoon Network Plushies. And you can see some characters up there that are so sick. It's painful to look at this image, honestly. It hurts me to see it because I want all of them so bad. And if it was not for this image, probably a lot of these, nobody would really even know where they came from. And boy, man, I would give anything to be able to go to the fair and see those prizes today. Keeping it moving here, we have the Cartoon Network promo set of VHSs. I was fortunate enough that at some point I did have these. Of course, you guys know on this channel I collect all things, but a huge thing I collect is Nickelodeon merchandise. So I did sell those off in order to buy a Nickelodeon Grail that I really wanted. But I did own them, and I found them at the flea market. And that is this set, though, going for $1,500 to $2,000 if you have all the materials, box, and stuff that goes with it. It's got 5 VHS tapes, and some of those shows don't have any physical media, so that is like the way to collect them. We also have this Kellogg's locker here. This was a mail-in prize, something you could only get by getting your cereal and then actually mailing in a little certificate to get one of these lunch boxes. And the same thing for the VHS tapes. It was a lunchable certificate you had to fill out and also pay for the VHS tapes in order to get them. Along with that locker, you also have this Kellogg's blanket too. This was also a promotional item that you could only get via sweepstakes through that same Kellogg program. From what I heard, it was a grocery store. They had this awesome Cartoon Network spin top display, and you could actually fill out a paperwork at the grocery store and possibly win this blanket. Next up is convention stuff. So this right here is an awesome backpack signed by all the different artists of those shows. It is a print signature, still fairly incredible and something you could have gotten at Comic-Con. This is a few items, and that is any of these regular show items that are signed by J.G. Quintel. We'll pop a couple of them up on screen, but here's a poster for this example, signed by J.G. Quintel as well as a few of the voice actors. But many of the voice actors do go to conventions still today. J.G. Quintel is kind of like your Steven Hillenburg, maybe not as like, you know, that level of Steven Hillenburg, but I mean in the sense of like they don't really go to conventions, they don't do a lot of appearances, comparatively to like a Craig Bartlett or maybe a Butch Hartman that has historically done a lot of convention appearances. J.G. Quintel is very, very tough to find a signature for, and around 2013 seems to be when most signatures pop up from that particular Comic-Con that he went to. We also have this poster here. I have a couple of these posters for Nickelodeon. This is a premiere new show premiere poster that was given out at some conventions for Flapjack. We also have this promotional bear that is called Checkers that was given out at different events. We have this promotional Space Ghost cookie jar that was available at Comic-Con. We have this, which is something I need to get, the Mega XLR robot figure. This is available 2003 Comic-Con. And finishing it with one item here, just because I've been fortunate enough to find it 3 different times. That is the Jammin' Video Toon Jam VHS, which features Moxie. A lot of people don't know that before Cartoon Network became what it is today, or was, they used to only show reruns of Hanna-Barbera shows, and it featured a host by the name of Moxie, the first ever Cartoon Network original character.
And now, it's time for the Moxie Show!
Hi, I'm Moxie, and, that's Fleet!
And Moxie is actually only featured in this VHS here that came as a part of a Cartoon Network PC game. I've actually been fortunate enough to find that tape 3 different times, and yeah, it goes for like $500 to $600. I found them every single time at the flea market. Alright, and again with this whole list, there's so many things that I could have covered. There's so many things I missed. Let me know down below. But it's getting crazier now, because now we're going on to number 2, which is items that were only given to employees, press, or corporate corporate figureheads. You know, only those type of people got these items. So let's check it out. One is actually this item I have in my personal collection. You guys are seeing some close-up shots of it right here. This is an example of some of the stuff that exists. It's really, really hard to find a lot of images online of this type of stuff, but there's so many items like this out there that were made in small quantities. 5, 6, 7 of them were made to send to different studios in order for them to get an idea of what the network had to offer, for them to make products, put it on their channel, if it was an overseas station, you name it. But this is essentially a smorgasbord of information and awesome images for Cartoon Network that they would have sent to likely a broadcast company to give them an idea of what type of shows the network had. And there's so many items like that, but I wish I had more pictures of them. I do have a couple items I'm going to show you guys here, like for example this giant 3 feet tall Chowder statue. This was something that was available to the employees. There was, I believe, 5 of them made, given to the employees of Chowder. Only one notably that I've been able to find pictures of is the one that was given to C.H. Greenblatt, the creator of the show, and also Fred Burger. This right here is some press stuff that was made for a press kit for My Gym Partner's a Monkey. I do have this poster here, but you'll also see there's a door greeter here that says either you're in or you're old, KND. And they also have a banana for My Gym Partner's a Monkey that doubles as a pin. This is a cow and chicken clock exclusively for employees' desk. It's so freaking sick. And that one was only $90. I would have bought that if I would have seen that one come up. But stuff goes so quick. This is an employee soccer ball so they could actually play soccer out in the courtyard at Cartoon Network Studios. I didn't even know where it came from until doing this video. I have that soccer ball, which is crazy. That's such a sick item too. Next up is Stresso Next. I'm fortunate enough to have this in the collection as well. For any of the items that I do have in my collection, we will be getting some shots of for you guys to be featured here, but that one was given to employees as a gift as well. And that's it for right now, because there's actually a few more items that I wanted to put in here, but I feel like they should be in the #1 category because they're that rare. So I actually am shifting some of those items over to our last number, which is #1, which is prototype samples and also stuff where there could be one of one that even exists, which is a new tangent I added on to that because of some of the stuff that I saw while looking at the employee only items. So let's take a look at some of the stuff first. Again, this does not include like animation cells and stuff like that. This is merchandise, stuff that's not a part of like the actual show, but stuff that you could actually own, display, put in your house. So these right here are the animated maquette. So I will show you all of them. Right here, some Hi Puffy Amiyumi ones. We're popping up on screen. These are on the cheaper side. They go for around $300, but they do get more expensive. Like for example, this Aku one that goes for about $500. There's an Ed, Edd and Eddy one, which looks so freaking awesome. I'm pretty sure this is based off of like the last season where they actually get out of the school with that makeshift rocket, and that is $1,000. We have a Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends one, but this is just one. There's multiple Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends ones, and those all go for around $300 to $400. But with all of these maquettes, there is also artist proof versions of them that were given to people that worked at the manufacturing companies and also Cartoon Network employees. They were limited to 50 pieces, so almost all of these maquettes have those. You can see the Foster's one here was 1,500 pieces, but the maquettes were only 50 pieces, so you count in some people that worked on the statues, Cartoon Network employees, the creators of the show, you know, all of a sudden there's only like 10 that go out to the public. The artist proof ones were never available for purchase in most cases, and you cannot find solds of those on eBay anywhere. I had to do deep research into heritage auctions and other eBay pages to find the artist proof ones, and most of those were selling for the several thousands of dollars, including one of the highest sold ones being one that I have. I swear I did not pick it for that reason, but literally one of the highest sold in Heritage Auction history. Heritage Auction final bid $2,040 for this Bubbles artist proof animators maquette. I knew what it was when it came up. I've gotten very fortunate that I also have these SpongeBob ones as well, that when these things come up, a lot of people don't really know what they are, and they don't have a lot of the same branding and information that an official product would have. So therefore, when they go up, sometimes people don't jump on them immediately. So when I saw that guy pop up, somebody had listed it. It was a new listing for 50 bucks. I bought it immediately. At the time, there was still a Bubbles and a Blossom, I think, available available for like $300 or $400. This was like 2017, 2018. Those were still available for like $300-$400. So I knew even then it was a great deal for $50, so I bought it. But nowhere, I would have never imagined that as the generation that grew up with that has gotten older, you know, people are getting deeper in their careers. A lot of people have more money than they used to, so the demand is going up. So $2,000 for that one. But I wanted to include this stuff as well. You can see some images of some maquettes too that are available that you maybe have never seen before. There's so many crazy characters that have got these maquettes. They have some for Disney too. Like pretty much all of the animator maquettes are used for animation and help use for the team for reference. But when they're publicly available and they have those artist print proofs, they can lead to some very rare figures. But I wanted to include this because technically this stuff was up for sale. This is the rarest of the rare outside of the maquettes and the protos and stuff like that. That is stuff from Cartoon Network Studios. Being that Cartoon Network Studios closed down, many of the items went up for sale. So right now you're seeing some photos of Cartoon Network Studio. Every item that you see on the walls, the desk, statues, all of that stuff, in most cases was publicly auctioned or available. A lot of stuff did get scrapped because of intellectual property laws. So with the Cartoon Network Hotel that recently closed, most of that stuff was completely destroyed because Cartoon Network was strict about it. Like, yeah, this stuff needs to be destroyed because if anybody gets it, they could use this to, I don't know, I guess open their own hotel. Nobody's gonna do that, but that's what their mind is thinking. So they make sure they destroy all those things. So that way nobody has licensed assets that go to a building that they can use. And also not that it hasn't gone through all of the product testing, sample testing that our typical product does to meet the market. So therefore they destroy all of it. But for whatever reason with the Cartoon Network Studio, a lot of the stuff went up for sale, including one item that I think is crazy. That is the Cartoon Network sign. Here's a post right now of the sign that was available. And this has a funny story connecting to the history of this show because on this show, we almost owned the C and the N that would have gone together to make the CN logo. Obviously the full text is Cartoon Network, but I almost owned both the C and the N. Back when this auction happened, I reached out to the guy that had the C and N for sale. The first few letters that he had sold were highly marketed. They were all over Twitter, Instagram, people were posting about it, and those went for thousands of dollars each. But a little bit later down the line, he seemed to have been saving the C and N, and only people that were really paying attention actually were there when that happened. I think he was saving those to kind of be like the grail piece, but because he waited so long, a lot of the marketing and the attention that it had kind of dwindled down. So he had the C and N up for auction, and at the time it was only at $1,200. I reached out to him, offering him a total of $5,000, which, you know, I would have had to scrape up some cash to do, but I wanted to do it because I knew it was a piece of history and was worth more than $5,000. I think that if he had to put it in like a heritage auction or like a more reputable site, he probably could have gotten somewhere from $15,000 to $20,000, but the auction ended up at $3,800. He refused to take my offer because he believed that it was going to sell for a higher price than it did. So he refused my offer and it ended up selling for $3,800, which was less than I offered him, which was very sad because I tried to do the auction and I ended up putting like $3,500, and then there wasn't enough time, and then it ended up at $3,800. And maybe I should have, if I could go back in time, I would have just put my max offer as the bid just in case. But who knows, maybe the other person's max offer was like $10,000, you know? So I don't know what happened, but all I know is that if he would have taken my private offer for the $5,000, we would have had that sign in the collection. But everything happens for a reason. It's just a funny story that'll kind of be with that history of the sign, and I would say it's probably one of all the stuff that comes from the studio is the rarest items that was technically publicly available. And on that note, I think that ends this video. You guys let me know, what was your favorite item today? What is your dream Cartoon Network item? Even if you're not a collector of Cartoon Network stuff or a collector in general, if you could pick like one dream item you saw in this video or you know exists, let me know in the comments down below. Let's put that energy out there, and who knows, maybe it'll end up in your life somehow. That's how I really believe things happen. So many weird things, I've just put the energy out there and somehow I ended up with them in my collection, luckily. So put that energy out there in the comments down below. Subscribe if you're new here, we're gonna be dropping another Cartoon Network video soon here. I'm in a Cartoon Network kind of vibe right now, so stay tuned here on the show. Hype the video, like the video, all that great stuff. If you guys want to support the show further, the greatest way to do that is checking out our Patreon, where you get extended versions of the videos, early release, ad-free, and the greatest perk of all is you get to support this show and keeping us doing the things that we're doing. Plus, you can also join through YouTube. There's the YouTube memberships as well. Thank you so much to our supporters over on Patreon and our YouTube members already. Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'll see you guys in this video over here, which is the last Cartoon Network video of the room tour. I know you're gonna love it. And as always, beautiful people, I'll see you in the next one. Adios and bloop!